I accepted the confession of that gentle senior. At night, his other personality came to find me. He stubbed out the cigarette in his hand and pinned me against the wall. One more chance. Who do you choose? I ran into that gentle, clean-cut academic superstar from school in an alley of the bar street. I was there looking for my dad, but ended up being thrown out. I stared at the small shop blocked by a screen, shimmering with hazy red light inside, with a few scantily dressed women standing at the entrance. Their faces were heavily made up. One of them stepped forward and shoved me. The ash flicked from her fingers, landing on my clothes. Where did this brat come from, trying to ruin my business? I stood there, hands clenched so tight my nails dug painfully into my palms. See, sister, I'm here to find my dad. As soon as I said it, passers-by couldn't help but cast curious glances my way. The woman's expression changed. She leaned in close, her heavily made-up face almost touching mine. I could even smell the pungent perfume on her. I heard her shrill voice. Little girl, go home if you want to find your dad. Don't look for him here. With that, she gave me a hard push. I lost my balance and stumbled backward, only to fall unexpectedly into a warm, solid embrace. Sister, you're so pretty. Why so rough? A magnetic, pleasant male voice came from above me. It sounded strangely familiar. Curious, I looked up, and the sight jolted me awake. The person who caught me was my school crush, CQ Ziki. I stood silently behind CQ Ziki, watching him chat and laugh with the heavily made-up woman, their conversation punctuated with words that made me blush. It was strange. Whenever I saw CQ Ziki at school, he was almost always in a white shirt, looking clean and fresh, the only accessory a wristwatch. But the person in front of me wore a black sleeveless leather jacket, revealing an arm tattoo with a black snake design. His hair was messy too. His ears, neck, wrists, even his waist were adorned with various accessories. Was this really Sikugi? I looked at his face again. It was indeed identical to Sichu Ziki's. Still in a daze, I saw Sichu Ziki glance back at me, then turn to say something to the woman. Then Sichu Ziki walked over to me. Little girl, I asked, your dad really isn't here. I mumbled an oh, still unwillingly peering toward the inside of the room. The woman stood on the steps, sizing me up for a moment, then went inside and closed the door behind her. I let out a long sigh and looked up at Sichu Ziki, who was leaning against the wall smoking. Smoking? How could Sichu Ziki smoke? I walked over. Thank you, Sichu. Why are you here? Sichu Ziki glanced at me, then quickly lowered his head to look at his phone, his tone indifferent. Little girl, you've got the wrong person, haven't you? Wrong person? Impossible. This face, this voice, how could I be wrong? After all, I'd had a crush on him for over a year. At that thought, my face grew warm. I stole a glance at the person in front of me. He was expertly flicking the ash from his cigarette, then took another deep drag, exhaling a cloud of white smoke. He really did seem different from his usual self. But maybe he just didn't want anyone to see him like this. I nodded, silently patting myself on the back for my clever deduction. I'm sorry. I mistook you for someone else. I bowed to Sichi Ziki in apology, then turned to leave. Sikai Ziki reached out and hooked his finger through my backpack strap, pulling me back. I turned around, puzzled. What is it? Sichu Ziki took a final drag of his cigarette, tossed the butt on the ground and crushed it under his foot. Then he looked at me and said, Come on, I'll walk you back. Walk me back? Why would he walk me back? Was he afraid I'd tell others about seeing him today? I quickly bowed again. Sorry. I'll definitely keep it secret. I absolutely won't tell anyone about today. Sichu Ziki pulled me upright and stared at me. You're quite an interesting little girl. As he spoke, he let out a soft chuckle, low as if he was trying hard to restrain it. But to my ears it was incredibly enticing. I buried my head low, not daring to look at his expression. All right. Siku Ziki started leading me out. I just saw a young girl in a place like this and couldn't rest easy. Since I'm being a good Samaritan, I might as well see you home. I had no choice but to follow obediently behind him. Sichu Ziki let go of my backpack strap and walked ahead with his hands behind his head. I watched that back. How many times had I followed Sichu Ziki just like this, from afar, never daring to step forward and say a word. I never expected that today he would actually let me follow him willingly. Hurry up. Shichizuki's call snapped me out of it. I realized I had fallen far behind. I jogged to catch up, walking side by side with him. Once out of the alley, we stopped in front of a motorcycle. Here. Shichizuki handed me a helmet. I took it and put it on, though I was puzzled inside. Since when did he know how to ride a motorcycle? Hold on tight, little girl. As soon as Shichizuki finished speaking, the engine roared to life and we shot forward. The sudden inertia threw me backward. In my panic, I wrapped my arms around the waist of the person in front and pressed myself against Shichizuki's back. Once I got used to the speed, I slowly relaxed my arms around Shichizuki's waist. Just as I was about to place my hands on his shoulders, the motorcycle accelerated sharply again, forcing me to wrap my arms back around his waist. Through the helmet, I could hear Shichizuki's hearty laughter. As I hugged his waist, pressed tightly against his back, my face was already burning bright red. In the wind whistling past my ears, Shichizuki's voice came through. Little girl, where do you live? I pointed toward the intersection up ahead, where we needed to turn right, and shouted back, I'm not going home. I'm going to school. Shichizuki fell silent for a moment before I heard his slightly surprised voice. You go to university, eh? What kind of question was that? Even though I rarely talked to him normally, it wasn't like we were complete strangers. I could only nod, then remembered he couldn't see. So I loudly, ed in agreement. The bike soon stopped at the school gate. I took off the helmet and handed it to Shichizuki. He took it, leaned against the motorcycle, gave me a few appraising looks and laughed. Little girl, what year are you in? Was he teasing me? Junior year. Shichizuki laughed even louder. He swung himself onto the motorcycle, put his helmet on, and before leaving, pointed at me. Wouldn't have guessed. Thought you were a middle schooler. Eat more usually, you look underdeveloped. Amidst his laughter, Shichizuki revved the engine and roared away, leaving me standing there dumbfounded. Middle schooler? Underdeveloped? The realization that I'd just been made fun of hit me. A wave of indignation welled up in my chest. But in the end, I just stomped my foot and turned to walk back into school. As soon as I entered the campus gate, my mom called. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed answer. My mom's sharp, slightly hoarse voice came through. You wretched girl. Where have you been? I told you to go find your dad. Did you find him? I twisted the hem of my shirt with my fingers and answered weakly. No. I came back to school. Her voice immediately raised several pitches. You wretched girl. I told you to find your dad. What are you doing back at school? You're just like your dad. You can both die out there for all I care. No, Mum. Beep, beep, beep. A burst of static cut off my words. I looked at the phone in my hand and tears began to fall uncontrollably. Back in the dorm, my roommate sidled over and said mysteriously, Shuang, I saw you at the school gate just now. I was startled. Did that mean she saw Shichizuki too? While I was still trying to figure out how to explain Shichi giving me a ride back, she spoke again. Was that guy who dropped you off your older brother? So handsome. She didn't recognize him. Thank goodness, thank goodness. I let out a sigh of relief and answered with a smile. Yeah, it's my brother. My roommate gave me an I knew it look and didn't ask more. Just mumbled a few things about why I never mentioned having such a handsome brother. I brushed it off and quickly retreated to my bed, pulling out my phone and opening the contact ID added over a year ago, but never spoken to. Shichizuki's profile picture was a British shorthair. From what I knew, this was a pet cat he'd had for 2 years. I clicked into his social media. He didn't post much, just a handful of reposted academic articles. The only original post was a picture of him holding that same British shorthair from the profile pic. The caption read, Starting today, let's grow up together. I exited out, wondering if I should send a message to thank him. But thinking about how he was today, he probably didn't want anyone to know about that side of himself. With that thought, I closed his chat window, stared at the ceiling above, and fell into a deep sleep. The next day, as usual, I coincidentally ran into Shichizuki on the way to the cafeteria. I spotted him from afar. still holding a stack of books, wearing a clean white shirt, with a black watch on his wrist. He looked like a completely different person from the one I met yesterday. Hey, Shuang, he's already left. What are you still looking at? My roommate nudged me, and I snapped out of it. Looking toward where Ziki had been, sure enough, he was already far away. It's nothing, I said. Let's go. The beef pancakes will be gone if we're any later. Yeah. Why are you back? Go find your good-for-nothing dad. Along with this roar came the loud crash of a vase hitting the floor. I stood at the doorway, watching my mom pick up another object to smash. I couldn't take it anymore and spoke up. Mom, that one. We brought that back from our trip to Japan a few years ago. My mom froze for a second, then flung the thing in her hand furiously at the wall. After a loud bang, that vase I once loved so much became countless, irreparable fragments scattered across the floor. I crouched down, trying to pick up the pieces bit by bit. My mom rushed over and kicked the fragments away. Get out. All of you get out. She yanked me to my feet, pushed me out the door, and then shut it in my face. Don't come back until you find your dad. My mom's voice came through the door. I scrambled up and started pounding on it, begging her to let me in. After more than 10 minutes, my hands were red from knocking, but my mom still didn't open the door. I stayed outside for a while longer, and finally decided I had to go find my dad. It was already dark. I hailed a cab and returned to that red light district. This time, I hadn't even entered the alley when I was stopped at its entrance. A group of men with tattooed arms blocked my way. The leader was a punk with dyed yellow hair. He grinned at me, revealing a mouth of equally yellow teeth. Oh, little sister, what are you doing here? I clutched my phone tightly, forcing myself to stay calm. I'm looking for someone. Looking for someone? The yellow-haired punk seemed amused. He stepped closer to me and asked with a smile. Looking for who? Big brother will help you find them. I took a big step back in fright, my voice trembling uncontrollably. No need. Suddenly, a pair of hands landed on my shoulders from behind and pulled me back. Scared, I swung my arms wildly behind me, screaming, "Ah!" The person caught my flailing hands, and a familiar voice rang out. Little girl, see who it is before you start swinging. It was Ziki. I turned to look at him. The familiar outfit, messy hair, and the half-smoked cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth. For some reason, seeing him here made me feel incredibly safe. My tears started falling. Plop, plop, plop. Crying? Did they bully you? Ziki reached out and ruffled my hair a couple of times, then looked at the group of punks. I shook my head, didn't speak, just kept crying. Damn it. Why won't they stop? Seeing Ziki, the group immediately became respectful. The yellow-haired leader bowed and scraped. Boss Key, I didn't know she was. Your person. Sorry. We'll get out of your way right now. Ziki threw his cigarette to the ground and crushed it underfoot, then stretched out an arm to block their path. What do you mean? Get out of your way. Bully someone of mine and think you can just leave. Apologize. He bit out the last 2 words heavily. The group immediately turned and bowed their apologies to me. I quickly waved my hands. It's okay. Only then did Ziki lower his arm. Get lost. After the group left, Ziki smiled at me, then leaned against the wall nearby and pulled out a cigarette. He lit it while asking, Little girl, why are you back here again? I lowered my head, not daring to look at him. After a low laugh, Ziki stood up and walked into the alley. Come on, I'll help you find your dad. I hurried after him, staying about 2 meters behind. I had smelled it when he got close earlier today. He definitely had a fair bit to drink. Ziki took me to look in every place, one by one. He told me to wait outside while he went in to ask for me. We checked all the open shops, but didn't find my dad. Every time we passed a place, the heavily made-up women at the door would greet Ziki, calling him in to have fun. Finally, we sat on some steps at the alley entrance. Ziki smoked, and I stayed silent beside him. Let's go. Ziki stubbed out his cigarette, stood up, and looked down at me from his height. I looked up, but my gaze landed on a house behind him. A man and a woman came out of the house. The man seemed quite drunk, leaning his whole weight on the woman. The two of them, supporting each other, walked toward the alley entrance. As they got closer, I recognized him. It was my dad. But who was the woman beside him? Forgetting everything else, I ran toward my dad. Dad! My dad lifted his head. His face flushed red. He was clearly shocked to see me, instantly sobering up. He straightened himself away from the woman, then raised his hand and slapped me across the face. What are you doing here? My face burned with a stinging pain. I stared at my dad, hardly believing he had hit me. My dad also seemed startled by his own action, a flash of surprise crossing his face. But it was just a flash. His expression immediately hardened again. He turned and wrapped his arm around the woman beside him again, tossed out a "Go home, now," and disappeared around the alley corner. The moment my dad's figure vanished completely, I couldn't take it anymore. I crouched on the ground and started sobbing uncontrollably. I felt someone drape a jacket over my shoulders. Looking up, I saw Shichizuki smiling at me. "It's all right. Let me get you back first." He took me straight to the foot of my dorm building, only to find we were past curfew. We stood in front of the iron gate for a while. Shichizuki scratched the back of his head and said to me, "How about you stay at my place for the night?" Shichizuki really took me back to his place. His home was huge, a detached villa, and he lived there alone. I stood at the door, feeling a bit awkward. Was I really at Shichizuki's house? It felt unbelievable, like a dream. Thinking this, I actually reached out and pinched my own arm. I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. Shichizuki turned to look at me. "What's wrong?" I quickly pulled down my sleeve to cover the red spot I'd just pinched. Nothing. Once inside, Shichizuki had me sit on the sofa. He poured me a glass of water while saying, "I usually live alone here. If you don't want to go home, I'll tidy up a room on the second floor for you later." I nodded. Shichizuki added, "Forgot to introduce myself. I'm Kian." Theft. The water I had just sipped sprayed out of my mouth. I stared at him in shock, my voice trembling. You said your name is what?" "Shichizuki no." Kian gave me a strange look. "Little girl, your hearing's not good at such a young age." I didn't answer, listening as he enunciated each word clearly. "I-am called Ki-yan." Oh no. He really isn't Shichizuki. I had been mistaking him for someone else all along. I silently drank my water, feeling both disappointed and strangely relieved. Of course, someone as outstanding as Shichizuki. How could he possibly be hanging around that kind of place in the middle of the night? I had originally planned to go home, but then I thought about going back only to face my mom's furious cursing and the slaps that could land on me at any moment. After wrestling with the thought, I decided to stay at Kian's place for one night. Tallying it up, he'd helped me 3 times, getting me out of a tight spot, giving me a ride back to school, and chasing off those punks for me. He probably wasn't a bad person. I stole a glance at Kian and found he was also looking at me. Our eyes just met like that. Ahem. I awkwardly looked away, pretending to be busy looking down at my phone. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Feeling thirsty, I got out of bed and went downstairs to get some water. As soon as I came down the stairs, I saw Kian sitting in the living room with his laptop. The lights in the living room were off. The glow from the laptop illuminated Kian. He had changed into clean loungewear, taken off all those messy metal accessories, and was now wearing a pair of silver-rimmed glasses. He rested his chin on his hand, staring at the computer screen. Like this, he looked even more like Shichizuki. Hearing me come downstairs, Kian glanced over, then turned his head back. "Can't sleep?" I poured a glass of water and drank it in one go. Thinking about it, I poured another glass for Kian and placed it on the table beside him. I asked, "How come you're not sleeping yet?" Kian took the glass and drank a sip, not even lifting his head. "I will soon. You go ahead and sleep." "Oh." I nodded and went back upstairs to my room. The next morning, I deliberately woke up very early and went out to buy breakfast. But as soon as I stepped into the kitchen, I saw Kian standing there shirtless, drinking water. Almost without thinking, I immediately dropped the breakfast in my hands and tried to run. Then Kian's voice came from behind. "You? Who are you?" Huh. After just one night, he doesn't recognize me. I awkwardly turned around, my head hanging low. I didn't dare to look at him. Well, and Ji Shuang, didn't you bring me back here last night? Clatter. I saw the glass fall to the floor and shatter, water spreading everywhere. I jumped in fright and hurriedly looked up at Kian. He wore an expression of utter shock. I brought you back? Was he regretting taking me in? I quickly bowed my head in apology. I'm sorry. I've disturbed you. I'll leave right now. With that, I grabbed my things and fled from there as fast as I could. Back at the school dorm, the first thing I did was plug in my phone to charge. There were over a dozen missed calls and 99 plus WeChat messages, all from my mom. I clicked in, about to read them one by one, when my mom's call came in again. I answered. The familiar roar assaulted my ears. You wretched girl, where the hell have you been? Not even coming home. You want to end up dead outside like your dad. Is that it? I waited in silence for her to finish, then said, Mom, I'm at school. It went quiet on the other end for a moment. Then another round of scolding rained down. School. Think you're so great just because you're in college? You're just like that father of yours, heartless brats. Why don't you just go live with your dad and let me die alone? My head buzzed. Everything in front of my eyes started to blur. Finally, I collapsed. The last thing I heard being the fading shrill curses from my mum. I woke up in the infirmary. As soon as I opened my eyes, my roommate leaned in close, smiling mysteriously. Hey, do you know who brought you here? I was confused. Who? My roommate leaned even closer. Sichu Ziki. Ah, I exclaimed in surprise. Then I saw someone walk in from outside the infirmary. Sichu Ziki. The way he looked at me was strange. That look scared me, and I quickly lowered my head, not daring to meet his eyes. Hello, I'd like to speak with her alone for a moment. He wasn't talking to me. My roommate looked thrilled, whispered, good luck to me, and went out. Sichu Ziki walked over and sat down beside me. My heart was a mix of shock and delight. Do you need something? Sichu Ziki took a deep breath, frowning as he asked, the person who showed up at my house this morning, that was you, right? What did he mean? His house? Wasn't that Kian's house? No, it wasn't. Although I had no idea what was going on, the one who really took me home was Kian. Maybe you've got it wrong, I ventured cautiously. Or, are you and Kian? Before I could finish, Sichu Ziki cut me off. Ji Shuang, I don't know what you're talking about, but the person holding breakfast at my house this morning was definitely you, right? So stern. I didn't want to deny it either, so I admitted directly. Yes, it was me. Sichu Ziki seemed to let out a sigh of relief, murmuring to himself. I thought. I couldn't hear clearly and leaned in a little closer. What did you say? I had leaned in too close. When Sichu Ziki turned his head, our faces were only a tiny distance apart. Instantly, I felt my face heat up and quickly moved my head away. Sichu Ziki also coughed awkwardly a few times. Well, why did you show up at my house? How was I supposed to answer that? From his reaction just now, it seemed he didn't know Kian. Saying they were twins seemed unlikely. I stole another glance at Sichu Ziki. A bold idea took shape in my mind. Dissociative identity disorder. Sichu Ziki and Kian were identical in every way except personality, and even lived in the same house. Other than that, I really couldn't think of any other possibility. Whatever, I'll just fudge my way through this for now. I spoke up. Well, I got the wrong house. As soon as the words left my mouth, I wanted to slap myself. Zero credibility. Unexpectedly, Sichu Ziki just said, oh, and didn't press further. Luckily, the doctor came in just then and tossed me a packet of medicine. Nothing serious, just low blood sugar. Young lady, you can't just diet and skip meals all the time. Eat properly to keep your body healthy. I nodded obediently. I understand. Thank you, teacher. Right, you're fine. Go on back. Coming out of the infirmary, I suddenly remembered I hadn't paid yet. I turned around to run back in, but Sichu Ziki pulled me back. I paid for it. He paused, then added, consider it paying you back for the breakfast. I wanted to say something else, but But Shichuziki just smiled and walked away. I looked at the medicine in my hand, my mood lifting considerably. As soon as I got back to the dorm, my roommate pounced on me for gossip. Well? I felt a bit embarrassed and played dumb. Nothing much. Come on. You have no idea, you fainting like that scared me to death. I couldn't find anyone to carry you to the infirmary. Ran into Shichuziki downstairs, and I thought, wow. Today is Xiongxiang's lucky day. Grabbed him and dragged him upstairs to help. So? My roommate leaned in, grinning. You owe me a meal. I smiled helplessly. Fine. Whatever you want to eat. It's on me. My roommate immediately happily pulled out her phone to search for what to eat. But my mind drifted back to the conversation I just had with Shichuziki. He actually didn't know Kian. Considering Kian's behavior, I was more and more convinced. They were two personalities living in the same body. I stayed in the dorm for a few days and my mom kept calling. Every time I had to make an excuse to go to the hallway to answer. Then endure nearly half an hour of her roaring. Shuang, your mom really loves you. Calling to chat for so long every day. My mom never calls me. It's always me calling her. My roommate sat at her desk, munching on chips as she spoke. My hand on the doorknob trembled slightly. I managed a tired smile. It's okay. Thinking about how my mom just told me to go find my dad again gave me a headache. 2 years ago, after the company went bankrupt, my parents' relationship also started deteriorating. Until a year ago, my dad stopped coming home, drinking all night outside. A few months ago, my mom somehow found out my dad was in that place. I sighed, put my phone on the desk, grabbed my clothes and went to take a shower. As the warm water flowed over me, I couldn't help wondering when this kind of life would ever end. Coming back from the shower, my roommate pointed at my phone. Xiong, your phone's been ringing non-stop. My heart sank. It wasn't my mom again, was it? I picked up the phone. Several missed calls, all from Kian. Checking the time, it was already past 10 at night. Come to think of it, the first 2 times I met Kian were also late at night. So maybe Kian's personality only comes out at night. I called back. The phone rang for a long time before someone answered. I quickly spoke up. Kian? Kian's voice was very low. Ji Shuang, can you come pick me up? Huh? I'm at the place where we first met. Okay, but you... Before I could finish, the call disconnected with a busy signal. What the... I looked at my phone, feeling rather speechless. Gathering my things, I prepared to go out. My roommate called after me. Shuang, it's so late, you're still going out. Curfew is soon. I checked the time. Leaving at this hour, there was a high chance I wouldn't be able to get back tonight. But, Kian. After a moment's thought, I still opened the door. It's fine. I probably won't be back tonight. I took a taxi to that alley. Getting out of the car, I saw Kian sitting slumped against the wall. Even before I got close, I could smell the strong scent of alcohol on him. Kian's eyes were closed, head tilted back as if asleep, breathing heavily. I reached out a finger and poked him. What's wrong? Kian opened his eyes, glanced at me, then closed them again, letting out a laugh. You little girl, you actually came. I was confused. Didn't you ask me to come? Kian reached out a hand. I quickly grabbed it and helped him stand up. He leaned heavily against me, unsteady, the potent smell of alcohol flooding my nose. I flagged down a taxi, struggled to get him inside, and then gave the driver his home address. The next day, I woke up on the sofa at Kian's place. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw Kian not Kian sitting stiffly on the sofa, staring at me intently. White shirt, neat and tidy hair, wristwatch on his wrist. This wasn't Kian. This was Shichuziki. I was so startled I bolted upright from the sofa. I was so nervous I completely forgot how to speak. Meanwhile, Shichuziki across from me just gave me a calm look. Classmate G, did you get lost again? My scalp prickled. I didn't dare look at Shichuziki's face. That's enough. Shichuziki stood up and went to the kitchen. After a while, he came back with a bowl of congee. Eat. We need to go back to school soon. With that, He left the living room and went back to his own room. I was a bit slow to react. What did this mean? He wasn't the least bit surprised. Weirdo. I mumbled to myself, looked at the bowl of congee in front of me, and my stomach betrayed me with a loud growl. After breakfast, Chuziki called a cab to go back to school. I watched Chuziki get into the front passenger seat, then stood a little farther away. Just kidding, me going to school with him in the same car. If anyone saw, who knows what kind of rumors would start. Chuziki rolled down the window, looking at me. Aren't you getting in? Oh. I don't have class this morning. I have other things to do later. You go ahead. Chuziki frowned slightly, didn't say more, and rolled the window back up. Watching the taxi drive away, I finally let out a sigh of relief. The next second, my phone started vibrating frantically. I answered, and my roommate's anxious voice came through. Xuansheng, where are you? You're late for the termagant professor's class. Roll call is about to start. Okay. I'm coming right now. Hanging up, I quickly hailed another cab and rushed towards school. In the end, I was still late. The female teacher we dubbed the termagant professor was a professor in her 50s. Notoriously strict. I was told to stand outside as punishment. Even though it felt ridiculous to be made to stand outside in college, I obediently went out. I stood bored by the door, counting the patterns on the wall of the building opposite. Suddenly, I heard an extremely familiar name. Chuziki. My head snapped up. I saw two people walking over from the other end of the corridor. One was nudging the other, Chuziki. Hey look, this one clearly ran into the termagant's class. Got kicked out for being late. My gaze met Chuziki's. In that moment I knew. I was done for. Sure enough, Chuziki stopped beside me. Didn't you say you had no class this morning? I kept my head down, hands twisting the hem of my shirt, not daring to look at him. The guy next to him spoke up. Huh. You two know each other? I remained silent, head still bowed. Then I heard Chuziki's voice. Not really. With that, he continued walking ahead. My heart, which had been in my throat, finally settled, yet an intense discomfort took root in my chest. I looked up again at Chuziki's retreating back. Just as they reached the corner of the corridor, Chuziki's steps faltered for a split second. My heart began racing again. I thought he might look back at me, but he merely paused that brief moment before continuing on without turning his head. Huh, what was I even thinking? I turned back, leaned against the wall, and resumed counting the patterns on the opposite building. Where was I again? I managed to survive until class ended, then followed my roommate to the cafeteria for lunch, only to be stopped by Chuziki right at the cafeteria entrance. My roommate gave me a knowing wink and vanished in a flash. Bracing myself, I asked Chuziki what he wanted. Chuziki looked at me, then shoved a folder of materials into my hands. Notes from Professor Chun's class. Professor Chun was the termagant. But why was he giving me notes? I don't need. Are you staying at my place again tonight? Chuziki cut me off. Huh? Staying at his place? Was this an invitation or an interrogation? What the heck? I took another look at him. His expression was utterly calm, not at all inviting. So it was an interrogation then. Right, of course. The person standing before me now was Chuziki, not Kian. And the two of them probably had no idea the other existed, which meant Chuziki had no clue that the person who took me home was himself. I quickly waved my hands. No, I won't. Chuziki didn't say anything, just frowned slightly, then walked away. Definitely being disliked. I sighed, hugged the folder to my chest, and walked into the cafeteria. My roommate immediately pounced. Ooh, study materials from the campus crush? I didn't answer, my heart aching. Chuziki disliked me. We'd just barely started having any interaction, and already he disliked me. Over the weekend, with nothing else to do, I went home. Even though I often felt tormented by my mom's hysterics and resentment, in my heart I still clung to the memory of the mother who used to love me dearly. I opened the door and was surprised to find the house clean and tidy. Walking in, I saw my dad and mom sitting together in the living room. It had been so long since I'd seen them sitting together so harmoniously. Overjoyed, I ran over. Dad, you're back. My dad gave me a tired smile. Immediately, I heard my mom's scornful laugh. Ha! Just like your dad. Through and through. Might as well die outside and never come back. I tried to placate her, moving to hug her. Mum, don't be angry. How could I ever leave you? But before I could touch her, she pushed me away with a shriek. Get away! Don't touch me! I froze in place. My dad shot to his feet, pulled me aside and yelled angrily at my mum. Are you crazy? Taking it out on the child. Soon they were arguing again. Listening to their shouts, I just felt the world was so noisy. Finally, they finished arguing. My dad picked up his bag to leave. My mom stepped forward and yanked me up from where I sat on the floor. If you're leaving, take your daughter with you. Don't leave her here to get in my way. Only then did it sink in. I looked at my dad, tears streaming. Dad, can't you stay? My dad frowned, looking at me, his expression softening slightly. He stepped forward and patted my head, his tone unusually gentle. Be good, Zhuang Zhuang. Stay with Mom for a while. Dad will come get you in a few days. With that, my dad opened the door and left. My mom chased after him. Harsh words pierced my ears one by one, including this line. Ji Shuang is not my daughter. That's right. I'm not my mom's biological child. I am my dad's daughter from his first marriage. But my birth mother died early. When I was only 2, my dad remarried to the woman who is now my mom. Her reason for marrying my dad was simple. She couldn't have children. So from a young age, she treated me as her own, never giving me less than her best. Even though I knew the truth, in my heart, I always saw her as my real mom. Until my dad's company went bankrupt, and he seemed to change overnight. My mom finally couldn't stand his nightly absences and started to become unhinged. I sat dazed on the floor. Outside, a car engine started, and soon the sound faded away. My mom's cursing didn't stop. After a long while, my mom came back inside. She glanced at me, walked straight to the fridge, and took out several bottles of beer. Then she lay down on the sofa and started drinking. Silently, I got up and began cleaning up the debris left from their fight. I was kicked out. On the 4th day after my dad left, while I was asleep, my mom packed up all my things and threw them outside the door. Waking up to the empty room left me bewildered. Going to the living room, I found my mom still lying on the sofa, her gaze vacant, fixed on the TV, which was reporting an impending thunderstorm. I walked over, my voice hoarse. Mom? She turned to look at me, her eyes as if seeing a stranger. Then she raised a hand and pointed at the door. Your things are at the door. I could hardly believe it, but seeing the mountain of luggage piled outside, I had to. Standing at my doorstep, a heap of belongings at my feet, a wave of loss and helplessness washed over me, the feeling of being suddenly homeless. But strangely, this time I didn't cry. From the pile, I sorted out what I thought I still needed into a suitcase, shouldered my backpack, turned, and said loudly to the tightly shut door, Goodbye, Mom. Where would I go? I didn't know. I could only drag my suitcase, wandering aimlessly on the street. Waiting at a crosswalk, a motorcycle roared past me. I watched that receding figure, thinking it looked extremely familiar. Suddenly it hit me. That was Kian. But it was only 5 p.m. Why would Kian appear at this time? Pondering this, I saw the motorcycle make a U-turn at the intersection ahead, and finally stop right in front of me. Kian took off his helmet, looked me over, and asked with a smile, Little girl, where are you off to? For some reason, every time Kian appeared, I felt an inexplicable sense of security. Like right now. I had meant to tell him about being kicked out, but the moment I opened my mouth, I started crying. I was stunned. So was Kian. In the end, I just abandoned all dignity and stood crying by the roadside. Kian's face showed clear panic. He reached out to wipe my tears, his tone full of affection. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Big brother will get them back for you. His words only made me feel more aggrieved. Between sobs, I managed to say, I was kicked out. Sniff. Kian. I have nowhere to go, sniff. Hearing this, Kian's expression relaxed. PFFT. That's all? Come on. There's room for you at my place. Even though I knew the person in front of me wasn't Sichu Ziki himself. When he smiled and said those words to me, I still chose to get on his bike. Ki-yan helped me fasten the helmet, reminding me to hold on tight so I wouldn't fall off. I carefully grabbed onto his clothes and nodded. Then I heard Ki-yan shout loudly, "Let's go!" taking our little girl home, attracting some strange looks from passers-by. I was taken aback, then hid behind him and secretly smiled. Ki-yan said he would cook a big meal to welcome me. I laughed through my tears. "You can actually cook?" Ki-yan widened his eyes in mock offense. "Little girl looking down on me?" I quickly waved my hands. No, so what are you making?" "My signature dishes." The confidence in Ki-yan's tone made me a little hopeful, until he brought out 2 plates of blackened, unidentifiable food. Staring at the 2 plates, I ventured cautiously. "This is tomato and eggs and braised beef." Hey, what exactly is there to be proud of with that mysteriously confident tone? I silently comforted myself. With Ki-yan's personality, him being willing to cook was already a big deal. Eat. At worst, I'll just throw up later. Stealing myself, I picked up a piece of beef with my chopsticks. Before it even reached my mouth, I gagged first. Ki-yan's face instantly fell. I was so scared I dropped my chopsticks and hurried to explain. It's not because of the food. It's because I'm upset about being kicked out, so... My voice trailed off lower and lower until I just shut up. Ki-yan stayed silent for a long time. Finally sighed, stood up, picked up the 2 plates, turned, and dumped them in the trash. I could have eaten it. I was frantic. Not because I was afraid of going hungry, but mainly terrified he'd get angry and kick me out too. Ki-yan stood with his back to me, staring at the trash can thoughtfully. I panicked even more. Had I shattered his confidence? "It's fine." Ki-yan walked over and patted my head. "Let's go. Big brother will take you out for something good." Scared me half to death. I followed Ki-yan out to a barbecue restaurant. Our table was on the 3rd floor by the window, next to a man-made lake. The view was beautiful, but I had absolutely no mind to appreciate it at that moment. What I cared about more was, why had Ki-yan appeared at this time? During the wait for the food, I tentatively tried to make conversation. "So, about last time at your place." I spoke while observing the person across from me. Ki-yan looked perfectly relaxed, smiling eyes fixed on me. It made me seem like the odd one. I decided to be direct. "Last time at your place, I went back to school first thing the next morning. I didn't get a chance to tell you." "Please don't mind." Ki-yan let out a soft My already anxious heart leapt into my throat. Had he figured it out? "I usually sleep in very late, otherwise I would have seen you off." Ki-yan scratched his head, seeming a bit regretful, his gaze carrying a hint of apology. Scared me there. No, as long as you don't mind." I quickly changed the subject. "I've never been to this restaurant before. The view outside is nice." Sure enough, Ki-yan's gaze followed my words out the window. He stared outside for a while before turning back with a smile. "Like it? We can just come here often from now on." "We us?" My brain short-circuited for a moment, looking at the smiling Ki-yan in front of me. As if possessed, I nodded. Okay. Something was off. It was the 3rd day of staying at Ki-yan's place. But from start to finish, I had only seen Ki-yan and never seen Chuzuki. Not even at school. As for Ki-yan, he drove me to school every day and picked me up every night. After a large lecture, my roommate sidled up to me and asked, Shuang, why haven't you been staying at the dorm lately? I'm so bored." I remembered last night when Ki-yan came to pick me up. He helped me fasten my helmet, then suddenly placed both hands on my shoulders and stared straight at me. I was baffled by his behavior. "What's wrong?" Ki-yan frowned, his question also strange. He said, "Little girl, it's the end of June." I thought he was asking about the date, so I replied, "Yes, it's the 20th. Ki-yan let go of me and leaned against the motorcycle. "Summer break is coming, right?" It was true. School usually let out for summer at the end of June. I nodded, still not understanding where he was going. Ki-yan continued, "Plans for summer break?" I really hadn't thought about that. In previous years, I definitely would have gone home. But now, thinking about what my mum said when she kicked me out, going back was probably hopeless. Find my dad? But after he left last time, he vanished. I'd called him many times, but it never went through. Stay at school, I guess, I answered. After all, besides school, I really couldn't think of anywhere else to go. Ki-an reached out and tapped the tip of my nose. Little girl, come home with me. It should have been a question, but coming from Ki-an's mouth, it sounded more like a command. Impossible to refuse. Most importantly, I didn't want to refuse. Shuang shuang? My roommate's hand waved in front of my face. I snapped back to reality. Summer break is coming, so I'm planning to move back home. Oh, okay. My roommate walked away, a bit disappointed. I rested my chin in my hands and gazed blankly out the window. Suddenly, a familiar figure passed by the window. Was that Shichuziki? I quickly got up and chased after him. Shichuziki walked very fast. I jogged the whole way and finally managed to stop him at a stairwell corner. Shichuziki. I stood in front of him, looking at him. Familiar white shirt, clean and tidy hair, and that familiar wristwatch on his wrist. This was definitely Shichuziki. It had been days. I finally saw him. Why haven't you been at school these past few days? Shichuziki swept over me, then quickly looked away. Move. Cold, distant, as if we'd never had any interaction at all. Shichuziki walked past me with an expressionless face. I stood there frozen, the two words echoing in my mind. Move. I watched Shichuziki's receding back, a tumult of emotions in my heart. That evening, Ki-an didn't come to pick me up as promised. I waited at the school gate for almost half an hour. A fine drizzle began to fall from the sky. I was just about to leave when I heard someone call my name. Ji Shuang. I turned around. Shichuziki was standing across the street, holding an umbrella, looking at me. Oh no. Ki-an wasn't here. And Shichuziki disliked me so much. Had he discovered I'd been staying at his place? While I was still trying to figure out how to explain why I'd been living at his house for days, Shichuziki had already crossed the street and was walking toward me. I had no choice but to brace myself and greet him. Hey, Shichuziki. I expected a barrage of questions, but instead, he stepped forward and took my backpack from my hands. Let's go. Shichuziki thoughtfully tilted the umbrella more toward my side. Go? Go. Where? I didn't ask, silently following behind him. After walking a distance, I realized this was the way to his home. Was Shichuziki taking me home? A mix of shock and joy surged within me. I stole a glance at Shichuziki's face. The gentle smile from earlier was gone, replaced once again by an expressionless mask. I had wanted to ask something, but couldn't find the words. I hadn't noticed before, but the school was actually quite a distance from Shichuziki's place. We walked for nearly 40 minutes before his residential area finally came into view in the distance. Shichuziki didn't speak the whole way. Apart from an occasional, watch out for cars, or you're getting wet, he just walked straight ahead, stiffly holding the umbrella and my backpack. At the front door, he didn't unlock it right away. Instead, he stood there blankly, staring at the door. What's wrong? Shichuziki seemed to snap out of it. He gave a small, strained smile. Nothing. He stepped forward, took out his keys, and opened the door. The moment the door swung open, I gasped in shock. The interior was a mess. It had been clean and tidy when I left that morning. Shichuziki rubbed his temples. Sorry about the mess. By the time we finished cleaning up the house, it was already past 1 a.m. During that entire time, Shichuziki remained silent, not uttering a single word. When we were finally done, collapsing exhausted on the bed, he finally spoke. It's so strange. I feel like I slept for a long time. When I woke up, I couldn't remember anything. All I remembered was that I needed to bring you home. Ji Shuang. Shichuziki said a lot in one breath. When he called my name at the end, he suddenly turned to look at me. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't dare make a sound. But Shichuziki just kept talking on his own. It's like I've been dreaming. Dreaming that I brought you home, took you to school. We ate together, curled up on the sofa watching movies, even went for walks by the river together. I was stunned. Everything Shichuziki described were things Ki-an had done with me. But why would Shichuziki know about them so clearly? My mind was a complete mess now. I couldn't even tell if the person across from me was Ziki or Kian. Seeing my silence, Ziki opened his mouth as if to continue. I hurriedly interrupted him. Stop, you weren't dreaming. Maybe it was my imagination, but I clearly saw Ziki's eyes light up upon hearing this. Really? So we really were together? Wait, together? What together? What kind of together? I looked at Ziki cautiously. And no, what do you mean by together? Ziki frowned. Together as in a couple. That kind of together. What in the world was this? Some strange plotline I didn't know about had just been added. I quickly waved my hands. No. It's just that you saw I was pitiful with nowhere to go. So you let me stay at your place temporarily. Ziki was silent for a while, before he finally seemed to process it. Oh. All right. We were back to the cold, aloof Ziki from school. I didn't dare say anything else, utterly baffled by what was going on with him. He stood up and started walking upstairs. I sat awkwardly where I was, not daring to move. When he reached the second-floor railing, he suddenly stopped, placing his hands on it. Little girl, get some rest early. My whole body jolted. I immediately looked up at Ziki, but all I saw was his back as he entered his room. He just called me little girl. Wasn't that Kian's usual nickname for me? Why would he call me that too? What on earth was going on? My head ached. I glanced one more time at Ziki's room. In the end, exhaustion overpowered everything else. I hurriedly washed up and went to bed. The next day was the weekend. Originally, Kian had promised to take me to the amusement park, but given yesterday's situation, that was probably off the table. I tossed and turned in bed, not wanting to get up. More accurately, I didn't dare to face whatever was outside. Judging by the sounds, he was already up. Was it Ziki or Kian out there now? I thought about it for a long time, but couldn't make sense of what happened yesterday. Ziki and Kian's memories had actually overlapped. That had never happened before. After a while, there was a knock on the door. Ziki's voice came through. Ji Shuang? Are you awake? I sat up immediately. Yes. I made breakfast. Want to come out and eat? Breakfast? Kian never made breakfast. He only ever bought it for me. So it was Ziki out there. Grabbing my clothes, I answered while getting dressed. Yes. Coming right away. Ziki's cooking skills were excellent. He even made congee with preserved eggs, which I loved. He even prepared my favorite pickled papaya strips. But I didn't feel happy at all. In fact, I felt scared, because all of these were things only Kian would know. And now, Ziki acted as if he'd known all along. It seemed my guess was right. His memories were starting to merge with Kian's. What's wrong? Nothing. Is the congee not good? I looked down and realized I'd been staring the bowl of congee in front of me for over 10 minutes without taking a single bite. I quickly ate a spoonful and forced a smile. No, it's delicious. Ziki placed a papaya strip in my bowl. Try this. Don't you love it the most? That sentence startled me so much I nearly choked on the congee I just swallowed. Cough, cough. Ziki handed me a napkin and patted my back. What happened? I waved my hand. Nothing. Let's eat. Something was wrong. Something was seriously wrong. Kian's memories were all known to Ziki now. Ziki made a sound and sat back down in his seat to continue drinking his congee. Go pack up your things later. We'll leave at 10. Huh? Didn't we agree to go to the amusement park? Theft. This time, I was genuinely shocked. I stared at Ziki, my voice trembling. You're taking me to the amusement park? Ziki looked at me for a moment, then suddenly reached out and ruffled my hair, smiling especially gently. What's wrong with you? Didn't we plan this a long time ago? Oh no. One of us, Ziki or me, was definitely going insane. At the amusement park, we stopped in front of the carousel. Ziki's expression hesitated for a second. I quickly spoke up. It's fine. If you don't like it, we can do something else. Ziki shook his head. You go ahead. I'll wait for you over here. As he spoke, he pointed to a bench nearby. I looked at the bench. Its position directly faced the carousel. Okay. With the music, the carousel began to turn. Every time it rotated to the side where Shichizuki was, I could see him sitting not far away, smiling at me. The last time the carousel came around, Shichizuki was gone. I followed the crowd out but couldn't find him anywhere. Just as I was about to call him, Shichizuki's call came in first. I answered, hearing that familiar voice on the other end. "Little girl, turn around." In the 4 days after Kian returned, Shichizuki disappeared again. He didn't even show up for the final exams. I went back to the dorm to pack my things. My roommate suddenly remarked beside me, "Shuang, what do you think Shichizuki is off doing? He didn't even come for finals." My hands packing my stuff stilled. I don't know. Maybe he has something going on. Luckily, my roommate didn't press further. I quickly grabbed my things and made my escape. Kian had arranged to pick me up and was already waiting at the school gate. "What's wrong?" In such a hurry. Kian took my suitcase from me and opened the passenger door. "Nothing," I answered listlessly. "Let's go back. Exams were exhausting." Kian just said, "Oh," and didn't speak further. Neither of us spoke on the way back. The atmosphere in the car was terrifyingly heavy. Feeling a gaze, I looked up and met Kian's eyes in the rearview mirror. Kian frowned and somewhat awkwardly looked away. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Where have you been this whole time you were gone?" We hit a red light just then. The car jolted to a stop. I stared fixedly at Kian's face in the rearview mirror. He rested his hands on the steering wheel, tapping his index finger rhythmically against it. There was a distinct scar on the knuckle of his index finger. I'd asked Kian about it before. He said he got it in a fight. "Little girl." Kian looked up, meeting my eyes in the mirror. "Where should we eat later? How about that restaurant from last time?" I took a deep breath. "You've always known about Shichizuki's existence, haven't you?" Kian glanced at me, then shifted his gaze away. "Yeah." The light turned green. Kian stepped on the gas and the car surged forward. I was thrown back heavily into my seat, but my eyes remained fixed on Kian in the rearview mirror. He knew about Shichizuki's existence. He had known all along. About 10 minutes later, the car stopped. I was about to get out when Kian called me back. "Little girl, if only one of us can exist, him or me, who would you choose?" A chill ran down my spine. I turned to look at Kian. He was still smiling, but that smile was now full of coldness. What do you mean?" Kian shrugged. "Nothing." With that, he got out, grabbed my luggage, and opened the car door for me. Looking at Kian now, he didn't seem like the big brother who had protected me anymore. There were many other things about him now. Could it be? He wanted to replace Shichizuki. That thought flashed through my mind. "Let's go." Kian, holding my suitcase, called out to me. I looked at his face, so familiar yet so strange now. Finally, I turned and ran in the opposite direction. Kian drove slowly, keeping pace with me. He didn't ask me to get in, just followed a few meters behind. I gradually slowed down too, finally stopping altogether and sitting by the roadside sulking. Kian pulled the car up in front of me, rolled down the window and looked at me with a smile. "Little girl, you can run pretty fast." I glanced at him. "Not as fast as your car." Kian reached to unbuckle his seatbelt as if to get out. I quickly stopped him. "Don't get out. Talk to me from the car." Kian paused, halting his movement. "What do you want?" "Listen to that." What kind of question was that? I met his smiling eyes head on. "You lied to me." "How did I lie?" "You are Shichizuki, but you pretended not to know when I asked you." Kian fell silent, staring at me for a few seconds before speaking. "But I'm really not him. At least, not right now." That sentence calmed me down. Right. The person in front of me wasn't Shichizuki. He was Kian. "So are you trying to replace Shichizuki?" As soon as the words left my mouth, both Kian and I were stunned. I was stunned because I hadn't expected to just blurt out my innermost thought. Kian probably didn't expect me to ask that. Looking at Kian, whose face instantly darkened, a wave of fear washed over me. "Why would you think I want to replace him?" Kian countered. "Why not say he wants to replace me?" I was completely thrown. I really hadn't considered that possibility. From the very beginning, I preconceived that Kian was Ziki's second personality, and naturally assumed he wanted to replace Ziki. But Kian's words left me bewildered. Yeah. Who was I? Whether it was Ziki or Kian, I wasn't close to either of them. What right did I have to make that judgment? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Kian sighed, opened the car door, and got out. He crouched in front of me, extending a hand as if comforting a child. Hungry? Let's go eat. I stared at his outstretched hand. A sour feeling churned in my heart. But he was offering me a way out. It would be ungrateful not to take it, wouldn't it? I could only nod, grab his wrist for support, and pull myself up. Hungry. To dispel the awkwardness, I quickly opened the car door and got in. Through the window, I saw the corner of Kian's mouth lift slightly. His gaze swept over me. Then he quickly opened the door and got in too. Strangely, when I woke up the next day, Ziki was back. Because as soon as I stepped out, I saw the same congee and side dishes as last time set out on the dining table. Ziki, wearing a white shirt, was busy in the kitchen with his back to me. Ziki? I called out tentatively. Ziki turned around, his expression freezing for a second. He placed the milk in his hand on the table and said, "Awake? Hungry?" I gave a low mem and sat down at the table. Just as I picked up my bowl to eat, my phone on the side started vibrating frantically. I glanced at it and saw an unfamiliar short number flashing on the screen. Thinking it was a spam call, I was about to hang up, but my finger unconsciously hit answer. As soon as it connected, a woman's frantic voice came through. "Is this Ji Shuang? Come to First Hospital immediately. Your mother has been in a car accident." The call ended immediately after. My mind went blank. I froze in place. Ziki stepped forward and waved a hand in front of my face. "What's wrong?" The moment I opened my mouth, tears fell. I repeated the words from the call, my voice trembling. "Ziki, my mom was in a car accident. On the way to the hospital, Ziki drove very fast, only to be stopped by a red light just one intersection away from the hospital. Damn it." I stared blankly at the red light ahead, already cried out. Lost in my chaotic thoughts, I felt someone take my hand. Looking up, I met Ziki's serious profile. "It's okay." Ziki's voice was soft. "I'm here, little girl." At the hospital, the doctor said my mom had been driving drunk and speeding the previous night, crashing into a roadside barrier. Because that road was relatively remote, not many people used it. So she wasn't discovered until early the next morning. By the time she was brought to the hospital, she was already gone. For the rest of the process, I moved like a zombie. I followed the doctor to complete all the formalities, then went to the police station to give a statement and collect my mom's belongings. My dad arrived that same night. Seeing him, all my emotions erupted in that instant. I cried and shouted, asking him why he had left, saying if it weren't for him, my mom wouldn't have ended up like this. Ziki stayed by my side the whole time. When my crying became uncontrollable, he held me tightly in his arms. "It's okay, Shuang. It's okay." After my mom's funeral arrangements were completed, my dad and I went back home. It had been too long since I'd been back. Pushing the door open, a flood of memories washed over me. Suppressing the urge to cry, I calmly told my dad I would go upstairs to pack my things. Then, in my mom's bedside drawer, I found a metal box. Inside were a bank book and a property deed. The name on them was mine. I refused my dad's request. He wanted me to go with him, to live where he worked now. Watching my dad enter the airport, I turned and called Ziki. About 10 minutes later, Ziki and I were sitting in a cafe outside the airport. I stared blankly at the people coming and going around us. Ziki suddenly spoke. "So, any plans for what's next?" I lowered my head, stirring the coffee cup in front of me. "I don't know. Next semester is internship time. I'll figure it out then." "I meant for this summer." I looked up, confused at the person across from me. Ziki smiled. "Just stay at my place. Going back there would only bring more sadness." I didn't respond, turning my head to watch a young couple walk by outside. The girl was laughing, leaning against the boy, who shifted his umbrella to cover her more, leaving half his own body exposed to the sun. Then I remembered what my dad had said to me before leaving. Ziki is a good kid. If you have feelings for him too, Dad doesn't object to you two being together. At least there'd be someone with you. Lost in thought, Ziki waved a hand in front of my face. What are you thinking about? Huh? I snapped back to reality. Nothing. A faint blush suddenly appeared on Ziki's face. What's wrong? Is it too hot by the window? I started to stand up, thinking of moving to another spot with my things. Ziki immediately stood and pulled me back. Shuang shuang. I sat back down looking at him. Ziki took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for something. I'm really sorry about your auntie. But that day, your uncle pulled me aside privately and asked me if I liked you. If I was willing to take care of you. I don't know how your relationship with your uncle is, but since you chose to stay, then I like you. Will you be my girlfriend? Looking at the utterly serious Ziki before me, I was at a loss for words for a moment. Seeing my silence, Ziki grew even more anxious. Believe me, I'll definitely treat you well. I really, really like you. Ziki's confession came too suddenly, and it did sound sincere. I wavered. Not just because I'd had a crush on him for so long, but also because it seemed like he was all I had left. Okay, I said it, but my heart didn't feel the joy I had expected. Ziki seemed very happy, but asked cautiously, Then? Later, I'll go with you to pack your things? I knew he meant going back to my house to pack. With my mom gone, the house was essentially empty now. Looking at Ziki's slightly worried expression, I managed to force a smile. Okay. Summer break was halfway through. Still grieving over my mom, I'd been feeling downcast. Ziki, however, was patient, spending every day at home with me. One night, unable to sleep, I suddenly heard movement downstairs. I opened my door and peered down from the hallway. I saw Ziki standing by the table, a shattered cup on the floor, and blood was dripping from his wrist. Ah! I gasped in shock and hurried downstairs to his side, frantically searching for something to stop the bleeding. I was so nervous my words tripped over themselves. Are you okay? What happened? Hold on, let me find something to wrap it with. There were no bandages in the living room. I remembered the first aid kit I brought with me might be in my room. I turned to run back upstairs, but Ziki grabbed my arm and pulled me back. He stepped forward, pinning me against the wall, then looked down at me. I knew that look all too well. I was only gone for a little while, little girl. Why are you so disobedient? Looking at his still bleeding hand, I had no mind for his words. I just reached out to gently cover the wound, my heart frantic. How did you do this? Stop messing around. Let me get bandages to stop the bleeding. I was still looking down at his wound when he suddenly pinched my chin, forcing my head up. Then he leaned down and kissed me. Shocked, I stared wide-eyed at the person in front of me. It was Qian. I'd realized it earlier. Qian's eyes were slightly closed, his long lashes fluttering gently. Coming to my senses, I bit down hard on his lip. Only then did he let go, but the hand restraining me still didn't loosen. Furious, tears welling in my eyes, I roughly wiped my mouth and glared at him. Are you insane, Qian? Qian wasn't angry. Instead, he smiled. Yes, driven insane by you. I was speechless. When did I drive you insane? How long has it been since we even saw each other? Qian shrugged. Haven't we seen each other every day? But that was clearly Sichu. Qian's expression suddenly shifted, cutting off my words. My gaze drifted back to the wound on his wrist, and anxiety surged again. You, let me go. I need to stop the bleeding on that wound. This time, Qian obediently stepped aside. I quickly ran upstairs, grabbed the first aid kit and came back down. Qian sat on the sofa, letting me bandage his hand. Finally, I tied off the bandage and looked up at Qian. He was staring at me, making me feel awkward. I quickly lowered my head to tidy up the things on the table, avoiding his gaze. Qian suddenly asked, Were you so worried because of me, or because of him? My heart skipped a beat, but my hands kept moving. Does it matter? You two are the same person anyway. One more chance. Who would you choose? I tried to make an excuse to leave, but was grabbed by the wrist and pulled back. Running wasn't a solution. I should have known this was coming. I stopped trying to leave, sat down on the nearby sofa, and looked at Kian. From the very beginning, I liked Shichuziki. Meeting you was just an accident. Kian's lips moved slightly, but he said nothing. I continued. Right now I'm Shichuziki's girlfriend. Even though you two share a body, you are you and he is he. Others might not tell the difference, but I can. I saw the light in Kian's eyes instantly dim. I stood up and turned to walk upstairs. That night, I slept restlessly, plagued by nightmares. I dreamed Kian was saying goodbye, telling me about his childhood, how his parents divorced when he was very young, how he lived with his grandmother until she passed away a few years ago. In the dream, Kian said, "Little girl, goodbye." The next day, I opened my eyes to find Kian asleep, leaning against the side of the bed. The bandage on his wrist was stained with a large patch of blood. I quickly got up to fetch fresh bandages to rewrap it, but the movement woke him. Shuang? I turned, a bit confused. Are you Shichuziki? What are you talking about? Who else would I be? Shichuziki tried to push himself up, but the pain from his reopened wound made him slump back. Ouch. Shichuziki frowned, looking at his wrist. What happened? I hurried over with the bandages, bent over, carefully wrapping his wrist. I felt an inexplicable fear creeping into my heart. I finished the bandage but couldn't get the knot right. The more I rushed, the more frustrated I became. Applying too much force, I accidentally hurt him, making him gasp. I immediately let go, scared. Shichuziki held his wrist, looking up at me with a comforting smile. It's fine. Leave it like this. Looking at this face, all I could think of was Kian. Suddenly remembering something, I looked up and asked, Shichuziki, what do your parents do? Shichuziki, who had been looking at his wound, stiffened. After a few seconds, he looked up, his smile tinged with helplessness. They're divorced. I was raised by my grandma. And your grandma? She passed away. It dawned on me then. Maybe yesterday wasn't a dream. Kian really had told me all this while I was asleep. For some reason, looking at Shichuziki now, a sense of foreboding washed over me. As if Kian would never come back. Kian really never appeared again. After summer break, using the excuse of preparing for grad school exams, I moved out of Shichuziki's place. After that, I started deliberately avoiding Shichuziki, hiding in the lab every day to study. Until one day my roommate came back and said she saw Shichuziki standing downstairs. Did you two have a fight? No. I flipped through the book in my hand, mentally complaining about how difficult the material was. Then why are you avoiding Shichuziki? I'm not. Come on. My roommate nudged me. If there's something, go talk it out. Don't do something you'll regret. After some thought, I got up, threw on a jacket, and went downstairs. It was already late October. Shichuziki was still wearing just a shirt. He leaned against the wall in the stairwell, his tall figure looking somewhat frail in the rustling cold wind. Shichuziki kept his head down, his hair tousled by the wind. For a second, I almost thought I was seeing Kian. I walked over, pulled him to stand a bit more inside, away from the wind. Don't you know to wear more? It's cold. Shichuziki looked up at me. I'm not cold. Actually, after all the back and forth lately, both of us were exhausted. I didn't know why, but whenever I was with him, I always ended up thinking of Kian. Let's break up. Don't come anymore. My voice was soft. Shichuziki seemed to have expected I'd say this. He didn't say anything. He stepped forward and reached out. Thinking he was going to hug me, I instinctively took a step back. Shichuziki paused, then still reached out and straightened my collar. My dad came to see me. I might be going to live with him. Okay. Silence fell again. A gust of wind blew, lifting the hem of Shichuziki's shirt. My nose stung. I turned and ran back upstairs. Go back, it's too cold. I'm going up. Shichuziki stood downstairs until after curfew that day, before leaving. Watching Shichuziki walk away, my roommate sighed. Sigh, Shuang, you're being a bit too harsh. I tightened my grip on the pen in my hand and didn't reply. Soon it was winter break. Most students around me had already found internship jobs. Before leaving, my roommate worriedly held my hand. Shuang Shuang, are you really okay staying here alone? I patted her hand reassuringly. It's fine. It gives me more time to study for the exams. After seeing my roommate off, I tidied up a bit and prepared to go to the library. On my way back from the library at night, I kept feeling like someone was following me. But whenever I looked back, I couldn't see anyone. Fortunately, I was still on campus, and there were plenty of people leaving the library at this hour. I didn't think much of it, just focused on getting back to the dorm to wash up and sleep. Reaching the dorm building, the feeling of being followed persisted. I quickly went upstairs, then paused and hid at a corner of the staircase. After about half a minute, I peeked around the corner. Sure enough, I saw a guy wearing a hoodie, the brim pulled low, looking around. I don't know where the courage came from, but I stepped out and called loudly. Hey, who are you looking for? The guy's body stiffened. He immediately turned his back to me and ran off. Strange. Back in my dorm room, I called my roommate and told her about the incident. We were chatting normally. She reminded me to be careful, that I shouldn't let my guard down even on campus. Then she suddenly sent a message. Shuang Shuang, I heard Sichu Ziki is back. My hand holding the phone trembled, and I thought of that guy's figure just now. Almost without hesitation, I dashed downstairs. But the guy was long gone. My roommate's voice came through the phone. Shuang Shuang, what's wrong? I quickly replied, nothing. Was it Sichu Ziki? I recalled the guy's outfit. It seemed more like something Kian would wear. Could it be? Kian was back? Lost in thought, I walked back upstairs. My head ached. Soon after, the grad school entrance exams ended. I also agreed to my dad's suggestion to intern at his company. Since my mum passed away, my dad had had a wake-up call. He wasn't drowning himself in alcohol anymore, but focused wholeheartedly on his business. Quickly, his company started doing better. My dad's company was in the neighboring city, about an hour away by high-speed rail. I arrived in the evening. My dad was still at a business dinner, so I called a taxi myself. The driver was a young man, wearing a baseball cap and a mask, making it impossible to see his face or eyes clearly. A flicker of suspicion crossed my mind, but after confirming the license plate was correct, I got in. The driver didn't speak the entire way. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes to rest. After a while, I felt the car stop. Thinking we'd arrived, I started to sit up. But then I saw the red light ahead. So I leaned back again. As I did, I glanced at the driver. He had one hand resting on the steering wheel, his index finger tapping rhythmically. On the knuckle of that index finger was a distinct scar. I jolted awake and looked up into the rearview mirror. The driver quickly averted his eyes. For the rest of the ride, I wasn't sleepy at all. I kept trying to start a conversation, but no matter what I said, the driver just nodded or gave a non-committal, We were almost at the destination. I couldn't hold back anymore. Leaning forward against the driver's seat, I asked, Driver, what's your name? The driver slammed on the brakes. His voice was low. We're here. I got out of the car, watching as the driver got my luggage out of the trunk. He turned to get back in. In a panic, I simply stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve. I have a lot of stuff. Could you help me carry it to the elevator over there? I knew my request was unreasonable. It might even be a bit dangerous. But I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to confirm if this person was Kian. The guy paused for a moment, then picked up my suitcase. Carrying my backpack, I followed behind, my mind racing on how to see his face. As we entered the building's entrance, he reached to push the door open with one hand, while still maneuvering the suitcase with the other. This was my chance. I quickly stepped forward, stood on my tiptoes, and snatched his cap. Then I saw a pair of familiar, startled eyes. Kian? The guy was stunned for a second. He quickly put down the suitcase and ran back to his car. I chased after him, but only saw the car driving away. I was sure. That look just now was definitely Kian's. But why was he here? Why did he run when he saw me? A few days later, my dad said there was a business dinner, and wanted me to go along. I didn't expect my dad's business counterpart to be Sichu Ziki's father. Sitting across the round table, seeing Sichu Ziki looking obedient yet unable to hide the darkness in his eyes, I had no appetite at all. Seizing a moment when everyone was busy, I slipped out. Then I waited in a corner of the hallway outside. I knew. Yuziki, or rather, the person in that body would definitely come out. Sure enough, soon after I left, the door opened again. Someone came out. As they approached, I stepped forward to block their path. Ki-yan had his hands in his pockets, seeming to have anticipated I'd be waiting for him. Little girl, you're quite clever. The familiar nickname and tone. Why are you here? Ki-yan's mouth twitched. Obviously, your dad and my dad are discussing business. His eyes were full of mirth. He clearly knew that wasn't what I was asking. Getting anxious, I grabbed his arm directly. You know what I'm asking? You disappeared suddenly for so long before. Why are you appearing again today? And that driver last time, that was you, wasn't it? I don't know which of my words upset him, but Ki-yan's expression changed upon hearing them. He took a step back, subtly shaking off my grip. Ji Shuang, were you looking for Si Chuziki? I understood. He was blaming me for choosing Si Chuziki and giving up on him. So after I got together with Si Chuziki, he disappeared, to make way for me. Si Chuziki will never appear again. Ki-yan stared at me as he spoke, enunciating each word. But I wanted to ask more, but was interrupted. Ziki? The private room door opened. A girl walked out. At the dinner table earlier, I'd been too focused on Ki-yan to notice there was this girl present. She walked over to Ki-yan and nudged him with her elbow. The two of them looked like they'd known each other for a long time. What are you two talking about out here? Ki-yan was still looking at me. Nothing. The girl looked at me, extending a hand. Hi, I'm Kiki. I'm Ji Shuang. I heard your dad mention you inside. Kiki smiled and playfully stuck out her tongue. She looked very cute. Then she started tugging at Ki-yan's sleeve, whining. Why did you come out? Your dad was asking about you. Looking at the scene before me, I instantly understood something. And Ki-yan, after Kiki's whining, reached out and ruffled her hair. Yeah, let's go back in. I followed the two of them back into the private room, my heart feeling so heavy it was hard to breathe. For the rest of the meal, my attention was entirely on the pair across from me. Kiki smiled a lot, constantly leaning over to whisper to Ki-yan. Sometimes, Ki-yan would laugh with her. What's wrong? My dad added some food to my plate. Nothing. I said this, then lowered my head to eat, trying to distract myself. Halfway through the meal, I felt someone looking at me. Looking up, I saw Ki-yan attentively straightening a corner of Kiki's clothing. I need to step out for a moment. Outside, I finally took a deep breath. Even though I knew I had no right to be jealous, I really couldn't force myself to stay inside any longer. I went to the restroom, splashed some water on my face, trying to clear my head. Looking up into the mirror, I saw Kiki standing behind me. Kiki asked bluntly, You like Ki-yan, don't you? I didn't answer, just looked at her. Kiki shrugged. You don't need to be so hostile toward me. I'm just his therapist. Therapist? You probably also know that besides Ki-yan, there's also Si Chuziki in that body, right? Then do you know that actually Si Chuziki is the secondary personality? Although I'd suspected it, hearing it confirmed was still a bit shocking. When Ki-yan was little, his parents divorced. He lived with his grandma. His grandma was a retired professor and placed extreme importance on Ki-yan's studies, putting a lot of pressure on him. Plus, Ki-yan suffered from bullying at school back then. Gradually, he started hating school. To protect himself, he split off a personality that loved studying. That's Si Chuziki. I didn't understand. Then now, for a long time, Si Chuziki took over Ki-yan's identity during the day, while Ki-yan only came out at night. Until you appeared and disrupted that balance. Ki-yan felt threatened, so he found me, hoping I could help him treat this condition. But Kiki paused, then continued. About 6 months ago, he suddenly contacted me, asking if there was any way to make Si Chuziki stay in the body permanently. At this point, Kiki grew agitated. He was crazy. He wanted a secondary personality to manage the body. However, seeing you today, I understand. It seems back then, you chose Si Chuziki, didn't you? By the time Kiki finished speaking, my face was already streaked with tears. Kiki stepped forward and patted my shoulder. Kian really liked you. I looked up and asked, how is he now? He's doing well, Kiki said. Ever since you broke up with Seiko Ziki, Kian came to me for active treatment. Right now, you could say he's Kian, or you could say he's Seiko Ziki, but there hasn't been a long absence of either personality like before. I nodded, not saying anything. As soon as Kiki and I walked out of the restroom, we saw Kian standing with his back to us at the doorway. Kiki gave me an encouraging gesture and went back to the private room first. I hesitated for a moment. Then, with a courage I didn't know I had, stepped forward and hugged him from behind. I could feel Kian's body stiffen suddenly. You... be quiet, I said, burying my face in his back. I missed you so much. Kian's body relaxed. He gently pried my hands loose and turned to face me. Little girl, one more chance. Who do you choose? Kian's serious, jealous expression was utterly adorable. Looking at him, I stood on my tiptoes and gave him a light kiss. Guess. After the sneak kiss, I tried to run, but Kian's long arm reached out, trapping me in his embrace. Dense, fervent kisses landed on my lips. I heard Kian's voice, tinged with possessiveness. Little girl, once you choose this time, there's no going back. Going back? That was impossible. Impossible for this lifetime.